Okay, so now if you're with me, what you've done so far is you've created a bunch of Google Calendars and you've created some embed codes so that you can put in calendars like this on your pages, but you're missing something big. Biggest, toughest part of this whole process is getting all of these assignments into the assignment calendar and the due date calendar. When I first did this, I did it all by hand, entering the assignments as events in the calendars, and it took a long time. There's an easier way, and Google will tell you how to do it. You just have to upload a CSV file to import that into your calendar. It's pretty easy if you know a few tricks. Now, first trick is we need somehow to get a list of assignments and assign dates and due dates. Here's how we do it. Go to the course home section and go down to teacher resources and then click here to get the pacing guide, or right click it and download it somewhere. Now here's a tip for what we're going to do. I don't know why, but Microsoft Excel is just not working well. We need to work with CSV files, and Excel seems to not handle them the way it should. So what I want you to do, what we sort of have to do, is use something else. I use LibreOffice. It's free. It's kind of a spin-off or a branch of OpenOffice, also free. So download one or the other. I'm using LibreOffice. Get it, it's free, and use that to open up the pacing guide. Now here's a pacing guide. I've hacked this thing up quite a bit. It's modified within an inch of its life. Well, not that much. When you first open up the pacing guide, you're going to see this planning dates tab. All you really have to do is put in the start date and the end date and the dates for the different holidays and non-school days along with their names. Once you do that, it will automatically update this course information tab. And the course information tab has some very sophisticated formulas in these cells. You see, there it is. That generates the appropriate days. Start date, end date. Start date and end date are the same for everything, and also the due dates for assignments. Now, if you look at this, what you see is we have a list of assignments and a list of assignment dates and due dates for them. One problem that we've got is that we have all of this funky formatting and we have these complicated formulas, and that's not going to work. We can't give this to Google. We have to clean this up quite a bit. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to save this as a CSV file. I don't actually have to change this, but I can here. I'll save it as temp.csv because it'll be temporary. Okay, so I save. Let's see. There's an option here to edit filter settings. Let's click that. Replace it. It warns us that we'll lose formatting and stuff. That's exactly what we want. Okay, and now it asks us about the field delimiter, which should be a comma in a comma separated value file, but sometimes it's a tab. And this text delimiter is kind of important in case there are commas within the lesson names. We should use the double quote for the text delimiter. Okay. This is also very important. Save the cell content as shown, not as a formula. We want the contents, not the formula. Click OK. And it tells us that only the active sheet was saved because CSV files do not have multiple sheets. Very, very simple. In fact, okay, now we still see the same thing we saw before, right? Even though we saved it as a CSV, which is not supposed to have multiple tabs and everything, or formulas, it's because it's working with the same file that we put into its memory in the first place. So that means we have to close it. I'm going to show you that CSV file. I'm going to open it, not with a spreadsheet, but with the text editor, and you'll see what it is. It's very simple. It's a bunch of fields separated by commas. That's all it is. And some of them, to make it clear for the spreadsheet application, they're quoted in these double quotes. So this is one field, even though it's got this line break here. Alright, enough of that. Open it up with LibreOffice. This is a great thing about LibreOffice, is that you can test it out before you accept the settings. Excel doesn't seem to do this. Right. Everything looks fine to me. And click OK. Oh, here's important. This text delimiter, let it know it's the double quote. And separated by commas. You can have tab or not. Shouldn't make a difference. Okay, here we are. And look at that. Looks totally different from what we saw before. Not totally, but it's cleaned up. It's very simple. It's just text. We don't need this row right here. We know what class we're working at. I'm going to delete this. Now, here are the two, I'm going to give you the two columns that you need for a valid CSV file. Only two. Subject and start date. It doesn't matter what order they're in. We need the subject, we need a start date. Subject is the name of the event, start date is when it starts. We already have start date right here for the assignments. That's when we assign these assignments, so we're just going to stick with this column. I don't need the end date, don't need this. Let's see. I think this navigation nomenclature is much more concise. I'll keep that one as the subject. Delete the lesson name. That's not what we want. And let's see what else we have. This is where we assign graded assignments. We might use that for our due dates calendar, but we don't need it for the simple assignments calendar. So I'm going to get rid of that. Also, we don't need the due dates. Okay, so we're almost there. What we're doing is we're building the calendar of just the assignments when they're assigned. We need to change this to subject. Right. Now we have start date, we have subject. Those are the two fields we need. Subject and start date. Yeah. Problem is we've got, see how there's a line break here? That's not great. That's going to mess things up a little bit. So we have to get rid of those. What I'll do is I'll insert a row, and then I'll take one of these and move it down, and now I've got to copy the date and move it down. This is the hardest part. This is the most labor intensive part of the whole thing, is just cleaning it up, because you should only have one line in the subject, not multiple lines in the subject. So as you can see, I'm just cutting and pasting, copying and pasting. Now I'm going to take out, we don't do part 2s of the test in chemistry, so I can take that out completely. Cut this out, insert a row, paste it back in. It's got the same date as the one above it. If I keep doing this, ultimately I will get a file with, let's see, it should be, I think this one. Let's take a look at this. Yep, we get a file where we have two columns, start date and subject, and it's just date and subject all the way down the line. Google Calendar will not be happy if we give it one of those fields where we have a line break here, like this one. It doesn't like that. Okay, once we have this all formatted, what we'll do is go up to File, Save As. I'm not actually going to do it. And we'll just save it as assignments.csv. Okay, so what are the steps now that we have assignments.csv saved? What are the steps to inserting it in Google Calendar? Well, it's pretty simple. You click the down arrow next to Other Calendars, select Import Calendar, choose, click File. Okay, let's just do it here. We'll find Google Calendars, go back to Calendars. Okay, here's Other Calendars down here. Import Calendar. I don't know why they put it down here. You'd think that if you wanted to import it here, it would be dropped down and it would say Import somewhere here. But no, it's in Other Calendars. This is the thing about Google. If you're searching, great user interface. Once you start using their apps, they're not so concerned about it. So they put things in interesting places sometimes. Alright, import calendar. We'll just browse, find the file we want. That's not the file we want. But we'd find it and then we'd choose the correct, this is very important, choose the correct calendar to put it into. Put it into the assignments calendar. Hit import, and you will, I'll give you this tip, you will not see all of the assignments show up right away. Like you'll look at that calendar and you'll see nothing for a while. Give it a few hours, you know. It takes a while to process and start showing up in your calendar, but it will. So don't make the mistake that I've made by importing the file again and then all of a sudden you have doubles and triples of things. Okay, well, let's go back to temp.csv and we're going to hit the undo button. Well, we didn't save temp.csv with any of the changes, so you wouldn't have to do this. You could just open it up again. Okay, so here's what it looked like when we first opened it. Now we've handled all the assignments, so we've handled all the start dates. We don't need that anymore. I'm going to take out this row. Oops. Delete column. Oop. Undo that. I needed to delete the row. Delete row. There we go. Okay. We don't want the start date now. Now we're doing the due date calendar, so we will delete that column. The due date is, where is it? Here it is. Assignment due date. This is the date. Now, the name of the column for Google Calendar has to be start date. So we need to name it to start date. Now this column here, assignment due, has the names of all these due assignments. Ones that are due for points. So those are the names. We'll call that subject. We don't need any of the other columns, so we will delete them all. Delete columns. Alright, now one problem that we've got is we have a lot of empty fields. And we need to get rid of those. So what I'm going to do is select both columns. I'm going to sort them by subject. So I go to Data, Sort them by subject. Okay, and that puts all the blank ones down here. So we can just select them all and delete the rows. Isn't this fun? It's not bad. Okay, so you see there are far fewer things that we need to add to the due date. Now in chemistry we don't use the part 2s, but if we did, here's what we'd do. We'd add a new row, paste in the name, and just use the same due date for part 2 as part 1. But since we don't actually do the part 2s, all I have to do is go through and delete them so that none of these subjects has more than one line. Can't have that. So you see the due date calendar is going to be way easier to do, at least for chemistry. Right. Again, if you needed both of the things, you'd have to take one out, insert a new row, and add it below with the same date. It's got to be only one subject and one date in each row. Can't have multiple subjects. Okay, what should we do with this file? Well, we would save this one as, and I would save it as duedates.csv, which I've already got a duedates.csv, so I'm just going to open it up there. Close without saving. Here's the due dates. It's looking good. Got my text delimiter, which is the double quote, separated by commas. Alright, open it up. And there it is right there. So, to insert it into a due date calendar, again you go to Other Calendars, Import Calendar. Is this the best location for this? No. But that's where they put it. Browse to find that file, wherever it is, and put it in your due dates calendar, like so. Import. Be patient, give it some time, because the events will not show up immediately. And before you know it, you'll have all of these lovely assignments in your calendar. And you'll never have to do that again for the rest of the semester.